All right, this is the lesson plan for October 4th from the Gospel lesson from Mark chapter 10. This is really great. You do a good job. The first story is a loaded one about marriage, and the second one is a really different one about children, and you do a good job with both and then connecting them as well. First, here are my thoughts just from having read the lesson before even looking at what you say. The first observation is that Jesus answers the question with a question. The second one is Jesus' observation that Moses' command is a concession. And then the third observation is the emphasis on joining together the word one flesh and its allusion to the book of Genesis, and then the actual joining together, and then the disallowing of any separation. In this verse, there's four references to union of marriage. You should maybe might want to consider just bringing that up even in your interpretation section because it seems pretty striking to me. And then in the little children part, the language here is very strong in the imperative. Let them come to me. Do not stop them. For this it is such to these as the kingdom does belong. And the description of him being indignant right here really stresses the intensity of the feeling of this passage for Jesus. Scripture, good job. Give it a little bit of context. And then moving into the observations about the fact that there's an audience change here is really good. I like that a lot. They knew Jesus would not support them, and you also do a good job more on context here about the different factors at play. Jesus going against the teaching of Moses. This is great. This is a great question in the interpretation section. I wonder if leaders won't read this and think that these are supposed to be application questions or get a little confused about that. I see what you're doing, and I like how you kind of give me some interpretation questions to address. But there's also the possibility for confusion, I guess. It's just something to consider, but it makes sense to me. No, he was not doing that. When you talk about settling for marriages of convenience, say more there. And then the same here. He was trying to protect those in bad situations or those of a sinful nature. Say more. Kids are going to be like, well, who's of a sinful nature? Which husbands and wives are of sinful natures as opposed to those who aren't? You know what I mean? So I can foresee that question. These are two good places for a little bit of clarification. And then if you want to reference this, it seems to kind of challenge Jesus's statement here in this gospel lesson, because he seems to say, sound kind of unequivocal about divorce, and then you want to bring up the fact that there's actually some permissions out there, and that's true and important to recognize, but also you might want to give the leaders a little bit of the information about where this is and what it says in order to give them the ability to answer questions and go into this deeper with kids, as it might point out something that sounds in tension with what we're learning here, so they probably might have more questions about it. Blessed children, good. You could maybe say another word about the fact that children had, sub status in society because of the fact that they were kids. That is a really interesting thing to hear. And the kids will probably be interested in how kids were viewed because you're talking to kids. Also, right here, I don't know if this is true, but I heard that children were had lower status in society than slaves. I do not know if that's true, but if it is, that's interesting. This is good right here. For your application questions, I like this. Well done. Jesus sees marriage as two people coming under one God. The way the world sees stubborn hearts should not see. Okay, good. There shouldn't be just easy, exceptions to separating what God has joined together, right? That's important. Little lesson there. Um, be determined against separation with God's help. I think you're saying the same thing that I just kind of said, but if you're not, then clarify this, and if you are, clarify this. uh, the problem was not the ideal or the intention of God or the high expectations. The problem was with man. This is awesome. This is the core of the teaching that you have here. This is a really great observation, and I would encourage you to read it again, put a little bit more clarification into it because you're definitely on the right path. Uh, the Israelites, Pharisees, have become so used to adjusting their lives for convenience that they're not even considering God's original intention. Okay? This is awesome. This will preach. This is a great way to just turn into application questions. So do that. Make application questions, and 90% of them should be based on this observation right here because it's so awesome. Total understanding, say comprehension in order to clarify that you're saying it's not that you should misunderstand God's plan or not have any idea, but the point is you shouldn't be able to grasp it and have total knowledge of what God knows, right? So maybe change the word here, but hope and faith of what God has in store for you. Right on. Good. This is also a great place for making the application turn. This is rife for discussion. Good ideas here. It's not how you spell judgment. So I would put this in additional information. If people want to start making connections, offer this up to them. Definitely do not give this a discussion question in place of this observation or this observation because these are too good. This is an awesome lesson. Did a great job. And throw a title in right here. And really excited to see the final product. Thank you.